Well, happy Tuesday, getting closer to Christmas. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us each and every weekday morning. Around 8 o'clock, we go live, where you can join the chat room. Always a lively bunch in there. Several things we got to tackle today. We'll possibly hear about updates to regulating hemp. Governor's making a push for that. You've got the Electoral College that's going to meet in Springfield today to cast their votes. Plus, we've got to tackle the budget vote yesterday in the city of Chicago. And who knows, maybe we'll do some discussion about sports facility funding and whether or not women's professional sports should be included in any conversations about public tax dollars going to fund stadiums. All right, it is Illinois in Focus Daily. You need to get a hold of me. You can find me anywhere. Just search Bishop on Air, and we can connect that way. But you can also get the newsletter at thecentersquare.com. Get the podcast where you get podcasts. But I do encourage you to check us out live to tape each and every weekday morning here at America's Talking Network. All right, we'll talk about the budget yesterday in the city of Chicago passing. Very slim margin. But what does that mean for how things are going to operate in the city of Chicago, not just this year, but next year, when they could face a similar issue with not being able to make up the amount of spending they're doing. So stay tuned. We'll hear that conversation next year with Illinois in Focus Daily.
We have no money. The people have no more money. And they're just asking for cuts and efficiencies, y'all. This budget has increased $5 billion in 4 years.
That's just some of the arguments yesterday on the floor of the Chicago City Council as they passed a $17.3 billion budget that does not increase property taxes, but does have a whole host of other tax and fee increases, and aldermen saying it's just kicking the can down the road. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. We've been tracking what's going on in Chicago with the city's spending plan for a variety of reasons. Number one, the public comments blasting the Johnson administration for continuing to support non-citizen migrants in the city with tax dollars, and not looking to trim the budget or to cooperate with federal immigration officials. They've been speaking up about that for a couple of years now, and the intensity of the public comments really heating up just in the past couple of weeks as they face this budget deadline. But the city of Chicago had until the end of this month to pass a budget. If they didn't pass a budget, you could have seen the stoppage of city services until they did pass a budget. So they attempted to pass the mayor, Brandon Johnson. He wanted a $300 million property tax increase. Aldermen unanimously voted that down. They were going to come back last week to pass a different plan that included like a $68 million property tax increase, but that didn't advance. They recessed Friday's meeting, came back yesterday afternoon, and heard public comments. Here's just one that was shared right at the top of the meeting yesterday in the city of Chicago.
My name is Carol Reyes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please continue.
A Chicago resident of Puerto Rican descent, I raised my voice against you, Mayor Johnson. Of the estimated 10 to 15 million percentage of arrivals that you welcomed, you stated that they would continue to make our city safe. Safe for whom? You welcomed the most violent gang on the face of the planet, people who are persona non grata from all over the world, explosive experts, serial rapists, human traffickers, drug dealers, terrorists, and thieves. And you want the residents of Chicago to pay for them to be here? A Department of Homeland Security employee stated that these migrants received a one-time payment of $6,000 upon arrival and $3,000 per family per month. They also get free phones and service, free Uber and bus rides, and free airline tickets, food stamps, apartment vouchers for $1,500 per month, and free medical care. Benefits Chicagoans or even citizens have never received. Have you lost your mind?
The comments continue there, and there were a slew. One other one that an individual who's spoken before at the city council raised the issue of which party seems to be having issues with finances.
Now, we are $1 billion in debt. That's absolutely insane. Kamala Harris, she spent $1 billion on her campaign less than a year, and she's $20 million in debt. So it's looking like Democrats are bad with money. Now, you ignored me for 10 to 15 seconds last time I was speaking, and I really did not appreciate that at all. But I got a Christmas present for you. Let's remind the people of Chicago that Brandon Johnson spent $32,000 in campaign funds on haircuts and makeup. So I got an early Christmas present for you, Brandon Johnson. This is some makeup for you right here. You got some rouge, you got the makeup brush right there, so you can save this people some money, for crying out loud.
So again, the public comments continued there, but it was time for alder people to share their thoughts. One that supports the mayor spending plan without the tax increases made their thoughts heard.
And want us to do. And so this budget, voting yes, as I will today, will deliver zero property taxes, will deliver the things that our residents need, will help make sure that youth have summer opportunities, will make sure that people have affordable and accessible mental health. Is it perfect? No. Has it been pulled in a million different directions? Yes. Has it changed and morphed over time in response to the input that's coming from older people in this body? Absolutely yes.
So it has changed quite a bit, as we talked about. The $300 million property tax increase Johnson wanted didn't pass. The $68 million was yanked from the budget. A whole host of other things modified in the budget that ultimately did pass. But those who were opposing this said it did not provide nearly the amount of savings and efficiencies and taxpayer cuts to really offset the high levels of spending there are.
We want to ignore what the people are saying. You all hear it in your communities. And I'm going to tell you, I know your phones are blowing up. I know you're getting calls from your residents. I know when you go to the grocery store, the people are telling you to vote no. But to ignore the will of the people, you all, is something that everybody in this room is going to have to reckon with in a couple of years.
So you can hear the crowd there, and I believe at one point they actually had to remove some people from the audience doing a recess. I think a couple of times they had to recess. I saw one that happened later on in the day. But here's more of that alderman concerned about what the future holds.
We have no money. The people have no more money. And they're just asking for cuts and efficiencies, y'all. This budget has increased $5 billion in 4 years. That's bloat, and that's more bloat. We need to cut it. That's what the people are asking for, and that's all we've been trying to do. Now,
they had a whole bunch of alder people write a letter to the mayor on Sunday saying that they wanted like $800 million in cuts to the city budget. Again, the city's facing $1 billion deficit if they didn't pass this budget that increases taxes and fees on things. But yet another alder person really, again, worried that they're not addressing the true issues in the budget. They're just delaying the pain for later down the road.
Chair recognizes Alderman Hopkins. Alderman Hopkins.
Thank you, but my goal has been to defeat the property tax increase. And ladies and gentlemen, I suggest to you we did not defeat it. We simply delayed it. The popular analogy is we kicked the can down the road. That analogy doesn't quite work because cans don't grow larger when you kick them. And believe me, this one will. We will be right back here at this time next year, dealing with the same set of circumstances that created this structural deficit and it will be even larger. It will be even more formidable. We did not do the work we need to do. We started.
And
we started to do that work, and I
didn't complete it. So interesting to say that the analogy of kicking the can down the road doesn't really suffice, because they worry that it's just going to mean even higher property taxes down the road. Let's hear what the mayor had to say at the tail end after the budget passed.
This budget also ensures our communities are safe. And over the past year, we have seen a decrease in crime and violence in almost every single category. And with this budget, we are going to ensure that we are able to build on that progress in the coming years, investing in real community safety, including sustaining our commitment to addressing gender-based violence. Additionally, we should all be proud that this budget includes a permanent line item for the Crisis Assistance Response and Engagement, the CARE program.
And he went on and laid out a whole bunch of other priorities, he said, that are important for Chicagoans. The mayor held a news conference afterwards where he took a ton of questions, and one that I think really kind of comes back to why we look at what happens in Chicago. And that's because Chicago's looking to Springfield for state tax dollars. So even people down in the Metro East, St. Louis County area, the Cairo to Edwardsville to Quincy, and so they're looking to get state tax dollars to help Chicago with its budget that you just heard older people say spends too much. Here's the mayor talking more about what he's looking for from Springfield, from the capital of Illinois, state taxpayers, in the form of, quote, progressive revenue.
With all the talk that we're hearing about progressive revenue, what indication are you getting from the governor's office or anywhere in Springfield that they are ready to pursue something like that, of that scale, or even at the city level, another try at the tax surcharge?
Mm-hmm. We're having regular conversations with the governor's team. We have spoken with the Speaker of the House as well as the Senate President, engaging them as well around a host of ideas. Look, it's too early to indicate whether or not someone's going to make a commitment one way or the other. All I can say is this, though. Here's what we do know. The state has conservatively projected about a $3.1 billion budget gap themselves. So we're not the only body of government who are dealing with the fact that the ultra-rich don't pay their fair share. State of Maryland, $2.7 billion budget deficit that they're projecting. And so, the indication really is being provided by the people of the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago. When we went for the fair tax, I believe the city of Chicago was over 70% in approval of a fair tax. Black Chicago was even higher, I think nearly almost 80%, in some wards higher than 80%. So there's clearly an appetite from the people of Chicago, and there's a political will from the people of Chicago and the mayor of Chicago, myself, to fight collectively for progressive revenue.
So the progressive revenue he talks about there is the failed progressive income tax that the state put up for voters in 2020, but it failed. He talked more about that, but again, that's kind of why we look at Illinois' largest city to see what kind of political sentiments might come out of Springfield, the Illinois state capital. So the budget's passed, $17.3 billion. It does, a variety of things. Could impact everyday taxpayers. One question that was asked, interesting question about who's going to be most impacted by things that you do see fee and tax increases on.
The alders have an opportunity to work with me.
And he ultimately said that you do have a recognition of people who are on the lower income scale being impacted by use taxes like streaming services, or tax on a bag, or a tax on a drink, or whatever it may be. So Johnson saying that's why we need to go and, quote, make the rich pay their fair share. All right, it's Illinois in Focus Daily. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Join us each and every weekday morning here. Get the podcast where you get podcasts, and wake up with us live with America's Talking Network. Electors for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz going to be officially casting their votes in the Capitol building in Springfield, Illinois today. Despite that, though, Donald Trump still looks to be inaugurated January 20th after all the state's electors cast their votes. Trump is the projected winner. You got the National Electoral College, but also the popular vote. But in Illinois, a winner-take-all state, all 19 electors are going to vote for Harris and Walz, and that ceremony happening today. It's also going to be met with enhanced security that's been in place for several weeks at the state capitol. Good morning. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, and when they're in session at the State House with the center square, that's what I do day in, day out, and bring you those highlights here with Illinois in Focus. So I will be heading to the Capitol to watch what happens with the Electoral College in Illinois, the 19 electors that are set to vote. Clearly you've got an interesting debate that's still happening around the Electoral College. Even U.S. Senator Dick Durbin has introduced a constitutional amendment to get rid of what he called an outdated 18th century tool that merely disenfranchises millions of voters, he claims. While you've got supporters saying the Electoral College is supposed to protect smaller states from being overpowered by larger states when it comes to selecting the next CEO of the United States, the commander-in-chief. Will Durbin's thing go anywhere? Not sure. But regardless, the Electoral College is still something that a lot of people don't necessarily fully understand. But when you break it down, it's really just a way to have actual representation of the country, according to those who write about what the founding fathers meant when they put it into the U.S. Constitution. And what it does is, it says that each state's congressmen are, essentially represented by electors that the people elect. So in Illinois, you weren't really voting for president. You were voting for that presidential candidate's electors, and they all have their names going through the party. The Republicans had their presidential electors, the Democrats had their presidential electors. There's a campaign process, a signature requirement process. People got to go out there and go door to door and collect signatures and such. So the primary process is about that. The general election's about that. But in Illinois, it's a winner take all state. So it doesn't matter if the 13th congressional district went to Trump. The elector from that district is going to vote for Harris. Secretary of State Alexi Giannoulias held a news conference yesterday just to kind of preview this, because the Illinois Secretary of State is the custodian of the Capitol, but also the record keeper, and is tasked with certifying the Electoral College in Illinois. And he talks about the winner-take-all approach that the state has.
For example, while Kamala Harris and Tim Walz did not win every Illinois constitutional district, they will receive the votes from all 19 Democratic electors because their ticket won the overall vote total in Illinois. So who are the people casting these 19 votes, and how are they selected? Each of the major political parties in the state have their own governing committee that selects their 19 electors and alternate electors before Election Day. In this case, it was the Democratic Party.
Have all of their votes lined up, ready to cast their votes. If somebody doesn't want to vote for Harris, then the alternate comes in and they will vote for Harris. Illinois has that winner-take-all approach. Some of the debate, though, I think is interesting when it comes to, should we have proportional? Maybe the Electoral College would be more understandable for people if there was actual proportional representation, meaning, if 12 of Illinois' congressional districts go to Harris, then those 12 district electors go to Harris. But while you have 7 others that might go to Trump, then you split that and have it go to Trump. The majority party would get the 2 remaining electors that would represent the U.S. Senate seats in that state. There's a way to do that, and very few states do that. I think 1 or 2 states actually do that. Regardless, though, the debate continues, right? It's the process we've got in place. It's not going to change unless there's a constitutional amendment approved in the proper process of approving a constitutional amendment. But Secretary of State Alexi Giannoulias talks about the importance of this and why he's just raising awareness about the Electoral College process in the state of Illinois.
We've been asked why we are doing this, and the truth of the matter is we promised transparency in the process when we ran for this office and every single thing that we do. This is an issue that never came up before 4 years ago after what happened on January 6th. So we believe in transparency. We want to educate the electorate and Illinois residents on how the process works. And someone who is somewhat of a history nerd, I happen to personally love this stuff. So tomorrow is an important day for our democracy. It's a great day for an important day for our democracy. I happen to personally love this stuff. So tomorrow is an important day for our democracy. It's a great day for civics nerds like myself. I'm honored to be the Secretary of State, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow's ceremony.
And he then welcomed everybody who could be in Springfield today to come to Springfield and witness history, he said. But if you do come to Springfield, you'll notice enhanced security. The Secretary of State's office announced a couple of weeks ago that everybody, with few exceptions, coming through the Capitol complex, the doors of the Capitol, will have to go through enhanced security screening. And that includes having your bags checked, going through a metal detector, and so on. Even myself, as somebody who's a credentialed member of the media, who several weeks ago didn't have to go through that process if I had my badge on, I now have to go through that. There's been times I've had to take my belt off. But regardless, enhanced security. If you come to the Capitol, you're going to notice that. Secretary of State Alexis Giannoulias is the custodian of the Capitol. He's responsible for security.
So our job as Secretary of State is to protect the Capitol complex and all Capitol buildings. It's a job that we take very serious. Hard stop. Obviously, we'd like to make everything as easy as possible. We'd like to make entrance into and exit out of the Capitol as easy and swimmingly as possible. Tragically, those days are gone. We've received numerous threats. We've seen what's happened around the country. I wish it weren't the case. I wish we didn't even have to have metal detectors or security screenings at the Capitol and the Capitol complex, but we live in a world where that's required. I know it's caused some frustration. I know it makes the process a little longer, and I can deal with people who are upset about the process, but what I will not deal with are any lives lost or major tragic events. That's our job, to protect and save lives.
So again, Alexis Giannoulias welcoming the Electoral College. They're going to be there today, 10 o'clock. We'll be monitoring that. Sometimes the electors get up there and they make a speech and then they drop their vote into the box. So what kind of speeches are we going to hear? It's Illinois in Focus Daily. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning with America's Talking Network. Get the podcast where you get podcasts, Illinois in Focus, and get the headlines at thecentersquare.com.
The deception, I just want to add, just pull these out again because I think it's just worth reminding you, like, your children would not, at some age, 6, 8, 10, would not know the difference between these two products. And this is just the beginning of a reason, and a good reason why this ought to be regulated.
It's Governor J.B. Pritzker on Friday holding up two different items, one being just regular candy, another being Candy that's infused with some kind of hemp product. So the governor is joining others to demand there be regulation on hemp products in the state of Illinois. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. The legislature won't be back until just after the new year. They have a tentative date scheduled January 2nd. But then a new General Assembly will be seated just about a week or so after that. So they'll be able to file all kinds of new legislation. Well, the governor came out Friday and announced that he is in support of House Bill 4293, which would provide what sponsors say is important regulation on hemp-derived products that are popping up at convenience stores that could lead to them being intoxicating. And the worry is that kids are getting their hands on this. Here's just some of what the governor had to say during Q&A of the news conference he took part in Friday in Chicago.
I don't put any stock in those claims. I understand that there are a lot of stores that are selling these products that would not be able to sell these products. I get that part, but those are not stores. Typically, they're not stores that are dedicated to this product. There are a few, but mostly these are, as I said before, convenience stores, gas stations, and elsewhere, and they've got other products that they sell that they wouldn't go out of business not selling this one.
So again, talking about the impacts on convenience stores who may be impacted by this, more questions to the governor and his responses.
Well, it's not prohibition. It would just be regulated. That's the point, right? I mean, could have had a prohibition bill. And in fact, I think one of the bills a year or two ago was, in fact, to ban Delta 8 entirely, right? This is something that would regulate it. And I think it's, as I think indicated by Senator Lightford, this is a compromise. This was, heard a lot of testimony, heard a lot of interests, and made changes in the way this bill is approached. That's why it took so long finally to get to where it was, and I think just ran out of time in the House. This is an opportunity to finally get it passed in January.
So in January, will it be during lame duck session? Will it be during the new General Assembly with a new bill that's filed? We'll watch and see. But again, House Bill 4293 has been filed and got the approval of, at least the support of Governor J.B. Pritzker. So will he actually sign this? A statement that the Illinois Hemp Business Association put out in response to the Pritzker administration saying they support this. They say the governor supports hemp regulation, and so do we. That is why Illinois hemp businesses, despite being ignored and dismissed, have long championed balanced, sensible regulations that shield families and put bad actors who peddle dangerous synthetics disguised as hemp or shamelessly market to children. However, HB 4293 is not regulation. It's a full-scale ban that wipes out nearly all federally legal hemp-derived products that include CBD lotions, shampoos, and pet care items. The legislation would benefit large marijuana corporations at the expense of Illinois residents and the legitimate small businesses that follow federal law, yet does nothing to curb online sales of hemp products to minors from out-of-state companies. We agree with the calls to enhance consumer safety, but we must work together to craft thoughtful, targeted regulations that deliver real public health and economic solutions for our state. So remember, Illinois has recreational cannabis, marijuana. Hemp is a different plant. It's in the same cannabis family, but it's not marijuana. It doesn't have the near high levels of THC that the cannabis that you can go and buy at a store, at a dispensary, would have. So you can derive CBD from that, and people have been doing that since a recent federal farm bill, I believe in 2018, really opened up that market. But clearly you've got the hemp industry that says they have been cast to the side by the legal cannabis regulatory scheme, where it's very expensive to get involved in legal recreational cannabis, whatever it is, transporting it, growing it, manufacturing it, selling it, high dollar licensing scheme that the state has. The hemp industry doesn't necessarily have that, so they see it as a easier way to get into a growing industry of overall the cannabis plant. So here we've got another organization that put out a statement. The hemp industry leaders, they say Illinois Healthy Alternatives Association commends the governor and state legislators for wanting to protect children and consumers, but they caution that the current proposed legislation falls short of jeopardizing small businesses. Illinois Healthy Alternatives Association calls for legislation that would include gating, eliminating lookalike products, and standardized testing and labeling the products for children and consumers. The bill the governor is supporting is being touted as legislation that would protect children, but in reality, it would effectively ban non-intoxicating CBD and hemp products that are federally legal. So the pushback here clearly making for what could be some contentious debates around this issue in Springfield. Again, legislators come back January 2nd. They're scheduled to. Then they have a new General Assembly that's going to be seated. So is this something that's going to pop off during lame duck session? Because if they don't pass it before the new General Assembly is seated, then the bill dies. It's sine die. The General Assembly, the 2 years that we've had, comes to an end. The new General Assembly will be seated, and you have to start all over with new legislation. They can repackage this and just refile it, but still, the whole process has to play back over with the 3 readings and 1 chamber, committee hearings, passing it, goes into the other chamber, 3 readings, committee hearing, pass it, then to the governor. So something to watch for lame duck session, no question about it. But again, the governor says the issue is important because, well, if you look at the products that are on the shelves in some of these places, it's pretty alarming, especially as it's, as he says, deceptive.
The deception, I just want to add, is, I mean, just pull these out again because I think it's just worth reminding you, like, your children would not, at some age, 6, 8, 10, would not know the difference between these 2 products. And this is just the beginning of a reason, and a good reason why this ought to be regulated.
So we'll watch and see what happens. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Wake up with us with Illinois in Focus daily each and every weekday morning. I'm Greg Bishop. Follow me anywhere. Just search Bishop on Air. That's all I got for you today. We'll have to hold the conversation about equity in sports facility funding. If the state was to ever fund sports facilities, shouldn't women's professional sports be included in that? Interesting conversation, but we'll have to unpack that soon. Meanwhile, I went through some of the 260 some odd bills that are becoming law January 1st. No, it's close to 300 actually, close to 300 laws going to be enacted January 1st. So we'll have to start unpacking a lot of those. I categorized them into like insurance, how drivers are going to be impacted, how the criminal justice system is going to be impacted, parents, how are parents going to be impacted, and we'll have to dig up some of the debate on some of these other things as well as we get closer to the end of the year. All right, so if you want to stay plugged in with what's going on here in Illinois, get the headlines at thecentersquare.com. All right, you can get the newsletter each and every weekday morning. Wake up with us here with Illinois in Focus daily as we go live weekday mornings, or get the podcast where you get podcasts. Just search Illinois in Focus. Got to get out of here. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. We'll be back at it tomorrow with Illinois in Focus daily.
Rest.